I have an amazing story for you.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear it.
Carnivore healing. Yeah, it to me, it's amazing. So if you don't mind, I'm going to just jump on in. Is that all right?
You go for it. Go ahead. I'll sit back and relax and enjoy it. Then go ahead. Tell me about what's going on.
Thank you. Okay, my carnivore journey starts in 2016 with my then 31-year-old daughter who was diagnosed with brain cancer. I go nuts trying to figure out how to save my daughter's life. So I came across you on World Carnivore Tribe in that time, 2016. I think that's when that was sort of all starting up. A couple of other places online, and Facebook that were doing the. I got so excited about it. I tried to get her interested in it, and I just couldn't do it. Her decision was to go just a very typical treatment for cancer.
Okay. Chemotherapy, radiation, that type of stuff.
Chemo and radiation, yeah. Okay. So she does this, and unfortunately, she dies in January of 2017.
Oh, sorry.
So 1 year later. So now back up 3 months, and I, who am 60 years old at that time, postmenopausal, I start bleeding out. I have no idea what's going on, but I can't deal with it because Mary's sick and it's just not a good time. I can't do anything about this until July of 2017 when they decide I need a full hysterectomy, right? So I get that done. And post surgery, the doctor says to me, "Oh my God, you've got, endometrial cancer. You need chemo, you need radiation. We're going to have to start this right away." And I look at him and I said, "No." And I literally said no, and I turned around and I walked out. And what I thought of was you, all right? I said, you know what? F it, I'm going carnivore. I'm going full carnivore, and we're going to see what happens, kind of thing, right? So now, I have to be very honest with you, Dr. Baker, I did not go 100%. I was doing maybe 3 weeks of carnivore, and then I'd go and eat every donut in a 20-mile radius. It was horrifying. My sugar addiction, still kicking in, unfortunately, at that point. However, you know what? I kept doing that. I just kept going back to carnivore and going back to carnivore. So now, fast forward now to April of 2020 and make the decision, no more sugar. I'm done. And I do that for 14 months, bringing us to June of 2021. I go to my husband's cardiologist and he said, I really want a CAC score. Right? I want to do a calcium score. And he's like, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. So I get one and I'm all of a 13, which, in my mind was stupendously great. I wasn't a 0, but I thought for myself, a 13 was a really good score. So I'm just all excited about it. You know what he says to me? He says, "Don't worry. It always gets worse. We'll put you on statins." I looked at him and I said, "Excuse me?" I said, "No, you won't." And I turned around and I walked out. I'm like, no, we're not doing this. So anyway, at that point, unfortunately, I kind of backed up and went back into the 3 weeks carnivore, 1 day crazy, mode that I had started earlier, But now fast forward from there to January of this year. First of all, my health is fantastic. Okay. There's nothing wrong with me. And I almost completely forget the fact that I'm supposed to be sick. Like that just doesn't happen for me. I let go of it. Right. So now January of 2022, this year, my beloved husband who, typical Italian, pasta and ice cream are gods. He comes home from work. He's a carpenter. He comes home from work. And he says, "I twisted funny under a desk and my back's going out." Right. I'm like, "Oh, that's bad. Well, we can't do anything to get it fixed." Finally, now we're heading towards the end of January, finally get an MRI. And it shows that he has 2 compressed vertebrae. And there's spots around it saying that, this is probably multiple myeloma. And so from there, we're like, oh my God, what do we do? And I tried to get him into Columbia Presbyterian. I could not do it. It was just one thing after the other. We end up rushing him into Sloan Kettering in the city in Manhattan. And, one thing and another, now he's put on regular chemo, no radiation, just regular chemo. And they do this surgery. I don't know. I'm sure you know what it is. Kyphoplasty, Kyphoplasty. What they do is they put cement into your vertebrae.
Yeah, it's called a kyphoplasty. Right.
Right. Yeah. I couldn't say it right. I thought they were kidding. When they first told me this, I started laughing. I'm like, "Oh, that's hysterical." No, they're like, "Yeah, no, this is what we do." I'm like, okay. Anyway, so that was February 9th that he went in. February 21st, he comes out. Now, he can't walk. He's in agony. He's lost 20 pounds. He's on every painkiller you could possibly imagine, fentanyl, oxycodone, everything, and he's just not doing well. And I'm the lovely wife. I turned to him on that day he comes home and I said to him, look, this is the way it goes. You're either going to go full carnivore right this minute, or I'm packing and I'm leaving, because I refuse to go through with you what I went through with my daughter, right? I mean, I was just hardcore. And of course, this poor man is in no shape to say no to me, right? And so he goes along with it. And I start feeding him bacon, eggs, ribeyes, strip steaks, some lamb, not a lot, some lamb, but as much red meat as I can get into this man's mouth. That's what I'm doing, right? All right, here's the kicker. This is insanity to me. 5 weeks, he's off of every single painkiller, every single one. He's off of all medication. He's having no issues whatsoever. Now, it takes a while for him to get his weight back up, right? That didn't happen in 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. But what we noticed, which was crazy, at least to me was crazy, he had what I'm going to call spontaneous nosebleeds, which may or may not have been related to the multiple myeloma, which started sort of a year before he was diagnosed, completely gone. And he had horrible hemorrhoids. I'm sorry, just gross, but horrible hemorrhoids, which he'd had since 2014. Again, completely gone. I don't know what happened, just gone. So now, at 6 weeks, or April 4th, he says, I'm bored, I'm going back to work. I'm like, okay, fine with me. He feels that good. He's walking great. His everything functioning basically fine. Now, when he went into the hospital, his M spike, which is the multiple myeloma marker, was an 8.05, right? Now today, he has completely regained his weight. He's completely regained his muscle strength, which he had lost, of course, in the hospital. He lost everything. And that's absolutely back now. And he's completely up to weight. And his M spike is down to a 1.42. So while it's not 100%, I don't think it'll ever get to 0.0 where it needs to be normal, but I think we can get pretty close, And honestly, I mean, in this short span of time, we're talking about really 5.5 months from going into the hospital to being really in fantastic shape. And the upshot of all of this is August 8th, Tom drove 10 hours with me. He wouldn't let me drive, but he drove 10 hours and we went to Bar Harbor, Maine, where we celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary on August 10th. I'm sorry, I don't think in a million years that would have happened if it had not been for meat. If it had not been for carnivore, none of that would have ever happened. This is my honest belief. And so, we're just going to keep going with him. And he, of course, now is a dedicated carnivore, even though he had to be brought into it kicking and screaming and, under threat of divorce. But, it's true. It really is true. I was not kidding around. Let me tell you something. I was dead serious. I was not going to put up with it. And I knew it would help him. I just did. I just instinctively knew that carnivore would help him. So I just went for it. And it also for myself, while I'm not at the weight that I want to be, I have been a lot better, major time better. I'd like to give a shout out to my Revero coach, Kiki, who has done a fantastic job with me as someone who is what I consider a gutter level sugar addict. I believe I became a sugar addict at the age of 5. I stole money to go buy candy. And of course, being raised with the typical, you have to count every calorie, thing, which is hard to kick. It's really hard to let go of. So I've had a lot of problems with that. So big shout out to Kiki, who's been working with me. And I feel like I'm doing much, much better because of it. And maybe you could summarize it in 5 words and say, just shut up and eat more meat. I think for sugar addicts, sometimes that's the answer, shut up. You're not going to CVS's candy aisle, go to the fridge, get some meat that you put in there for yourself and eat it. And it's just that simple to me. So that's basically my story.
Well, wow. I can just say, wow, that's amazing. There's a lot of things going on there.